Boldly, aka Golden. Now, because of the present as actions, it's not still a PvP.
We're running out
There
of
is simply
time.
go to the children. Looking at the shade. Again, I never find that this is video. So what is your bad code? As this is out of path to every as an argument that one is recently.
Running out of time.
With this basically where then we can play again. We purpose grass. Principle is because of the right experience. It's the area where extremely good behavior is also the work and if the answers are yes, it's out of the different
We're running out of time.
I don't think that because this guy repetitively engaging, I skipped for that because he wasn't talking to me. But the guy pretending to be.
Running out of time.
Not you. Incredible double trauma, which is one stage of the
Running out of time.
it's a little bit to make all the people because you also use houses. It's so much of houses and surveys practice. There's a people who say, this thing is people that you know it's good. This is doing a good job of so we're really not this shit. These guys in this.
Running out of time.
And then they go to YouTube and on the internet. You can take small listen, I understand giving therapy for people who have these conditions, but for acting upon it, I've never speaking to people who are favorite guys. Fuck around. So even the service is exposing these freaks that they get fucked up. That's his contribution. I feel like Alex has had no impact on these freaks whatsoever as well.
Running out of time.
This is people who really want this time to create even making content. We started putting that in people before we take care of the gate. We put care of making sure. We care of this until we started looking at this whole we care of the wall. This whole working is on this whole
We're running out of time.
And we can play. Can you do your damn business?
Running out of time. Running out of time. Running out of time.
The subsequent 364 in 1996 simply was the start of the design. While polygon-based 3D graphics were exactly, the Nintendo 64's flagship title demonstrated just how far their level of creativity and ingenuity could go with the added dimension. Among the game developers who recognized this was Square's Tetsuya, who became completely captured with the game, who wanted to develop a title
We're running out of
But
time.
when people discuss such prospectus, games then would dismiss it out of hand, attributing its immediate success to the popularity of Mario himself. Doing it from scratch with an original character wouldn't be feasible, they said, with one of them going so far as to say that it wouldn't be possible to produce characters as popular as Disney's. Little did they know that this innocuous comment would be truer than they thought, that within a few years, Nomura would be
Running out of
spearheading
time.
just such a project, bringing the worlds of Disney and Square together for a brand new title, which would capture the hearts of millions.
We're running out of time.
The release of Super Mario 64 in 1996 signaled the start of a new age of video game design. While polygon-based 3D graphics weren't exactly new, the Nintendo 64's flagship title demonstrated just how far developer creativity and ingenuity could go with the added dimension. Among the game developers who recognized this was Square's Tetsuya Nomura, who had become positively enraptured with the game and wanted to develop a title that would follow in its footsteps. But when he would discuss such a prospect with his colleagues, they would dismiss it out of hand, attributing its immediate success to the popularity of Mario himself. Doing it from scratch with an original character wouldn't be feasible, they said, with one of them going so far as to say that it would only be possible if he used characters as popular as Disney's. Little did they know that this innocuous comment would prove to be much truer than they thought, as within a few years, Nomura would be spearheading just such a project, bringing the worlds of Disney and Square together for a brand new title, which would capture the hearts of millions all over the world.
Bro, Stick, dog, don't be shitty with me, bro. I'm just enjoying this. I'm enjoying my show. Don't be shitty with me, bro. I'm just enjoying my show. If you want to be in here, bro, you can join, but... Oh, bro, get out of
For
here.
a time in the 1990s, one of Square's offices in Tokyo was in the same building as a branch of Disney Interactive, and it was this close proximity which would lead to a seemingly inevitable meeting between one of Square's producers, Shinji Hashimoto, and a Disney executive in an elevator. It was during this brief window that the Disney executive would suggest that the two companies collaborate on a game together, an invitation to which Hashimoto was quite receptive. He would occasionally meet with Disney representatives to discuss ideas for what the project should be, with Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi attending at least one such meeting as well. Initially, talks seemed to be going nowhere, and it was during these early stages when Tetsuya Nomura would be called into an unrelated meeting with Hashimoto and Sakaguchi, who were discussing their most recent talks with Disney as he entered the room. Despite what one may expect given Disney's massive popularity in Japan, Nomura hadn't grown up with the House of Mouse. Having been raised in a small village in the Kochi prefecture, much of his youth was spent either drawing or outside playing in the rice fields, rather than watching one of the two channels available on local television. It wouldn't be until after he had joined Square in the early 1990s that he would have his first encounter with one of the Disney company's seminal animated features, The Little Mermaid, on one of those two TV channels available in his childhood home. Needless to say, given later events, he was quite taken with it, and would seek out other works in the Disney animated canon, with Simba from The Lion King becoming his personal favorite Disney character. Upon learning that a collaboration with Disney was in the works, Nomura recalled the dismissive remarks from his colleagues about the game he wanted to make, one which would embody the same feeling of freedom and exploration as Super Mario 64. The only way you could do it is with characters that are as well known as Disney's. That comment had stayed with Nomura for over 2 years, through the development of Final Fantasies 7 and 8, and now here he was, in the same room where his superiors were mulling over exactly the opportunity he had dreamed about for so long. In an instant, Nomura raised his hand and interjected, "I want to be a part of this." Hashimoto and Sakaguchi agreed to let Nomura take charge of the project, and what followed was a meeting with Disney executives comprised of several presentations for what they wanted the game to be. Nomura, however, already had a loose idea for the kind of game he wanted to make, a 3D action game with stylized characters, with a story about the immaterial bonds between people, and from his perspective, it seemed that the people at Disney Interactive had a very different idea of collaboration than he did. Quote, "Of course, they had their own ideas and asked us if we'd be interested in making a variety of their ideas into a game. They appeared to believe that we would make whatever they wanted us to make, and came up with rather specific requests, such as, 'We'd like the game to feature this character.' They were really excited, explaining their ideas. To be honest, though, I wasn't really interested in any of them." End quote. With roughly half of their meeting already monopolized by such pitches, Nomura would abruptly stop one of them when he coldly declared, "I won't make such games." The Disney suits were stunned by this unexpected response, though Nomura, not being able to understand what they were saying among themselves in English, was unconcerned. Instead, he would explain to them his own rudimentary concept for what he envisioned for the game, a group of brand new Disney characters gallivanting through multiple Disney worlds. The executive who initially broached the collaboration idea was amenable to the proposal, and offered his own suggestion. Since it's stylized, it would be best if there are Disney characters that are known worldwide. Following the completion of Final Fantasy VIII, Nomura would begin planning this new title in earnest as its director and character designer, spending approximately 1 year as effectively a one-man team, and it was this prospect which had initially given him pause to take on the project in the first place, as he knew how strenuous the task would be. Until now, he had largely been a character and monster designer, with the occasional narrative contribution, but now he was in charge of not just creating original characters, ones which would fit into the Disney brand no less, but crafting the world, conflict, narrative, themes, and other concepts that would bring the game and its story to life. But before these wider considerations, he began with what he already knew intuitively: character design. In his first meeting with Disney after pitching his vision for the game, he presented them with what he had in mind for the protagonist: a bestial, lion-tailed boy with baggy clothes carrying a sword made to resemble a chainsaw. The Disney executives were, once again, taken aback, prompting Nomura to revise this design. These revisions began with one simple directive from Disney: a necessity behind defeating enemies. From this, Nomura came up with the idea of a key which could free stolen hearts, and so the chainsaw sword would be replaced by what would come to be called the Keyblade, around which the rest of the game's concepts would take shape: a conflict between light and darkness, which sees the protagonist, a 14-year-old boy named Sora, teaming up with Donald Duck and Goofy to find their missing king, Sora's missing friends, Riku and Kairi, and stop the shadowy creatures known as the Heartless from devouring the hearts of people and worlds, using the Keyblade to seal the hearts of the worlds they discover along their journey. This story would culminate in a climactic battle against the evil witch controlling the Heartless from her hollow keep. It was a simple story befitting the often black and white nature of Disney's own in-house works, but Nomura would flesh out certain aspects of this narrative on the advice of Hironobu Sakaguchi. When Nomura told the Final Fantasy creator what he had planned, Sakaguchi felt that having such an elementary story would be a bad idea, and that Nomura should craft a scenario which could appeal to Final Fantasy fans. As Nomura toiled away on character designs and story concepts, he would begin assembling a team of trustworthy developers and creatives to handle the finer details and begin greasing the wheels on the project. Among them would be animation director Tatsuyo Kondo, who had previously been a character animator on Final Fantasy VII and a creature modeler on Parasite Eve, battle director Yuichi Kanemori, who had held the same role on Parasite Eve 2, and scenario writers Jun Akiyama, who had also worked on Final Fantasy VII as an event planner, and Daisuke Watanabe, the scenario writer for Threads of Fate. Shinji Hashimoto would serve as the game's producer, and while Hironobu Sakaguchi would ultimately receive an executive producer credit in the final game, this would be for entirely ceremonial purposes as vice president of Square. Aside from the one piece of advice he gave to Nomura early on, Sakaguchi had no involvement in the project. Rather, his time and focus were dominated by the production of a computer-animated Final Fantasy feature film and Final Fantasy IX, both of which were being produced at Square USA's Hawaii branch, but those are stories for another time. Incidentally, however, Sora's character design would shed its animalistic traits over time so as to not overlap with Zidane Tribal of Final Fantasy IX. While Disney were mostly hands-off regarding the overall plot and scope of the game, with the only stipulation that characters from bespoke stories couldn't cross paths or leave their own world, there were still significant development hurdles to overcome. The largest of these was the burgeoning crew's inexperience with creating games with real-time action combat, which led to a fair amount of anxiety among the team. Some of them were unsure whether the game they were making was even going to be any good, but Nomura would continuously reassure them all that the game would be fun in the end, and yet the first-time director was facing his own struggles all the while, having to learn how to best manage a project based on what he had learned working under Hironobu Sakaguchi, Yoshinori Kitase, Hiroyuki Ito, and Tetsuya Takahashi over the years. Nomura had enjoyed working with and for each of them, and while he believed that he could never be like his seniors, he still hoped to create a working environment that could foster a similar sentiment. He wanted his team to enjoy working for him, even as he struggled to convey his ideas in writing, opting instead to communicate them through his drawings and sketches. Even still, Nomura would occasionally fall behind schedule with his artwork, leading to some sticky situations along the way. But through it all, he maintained a healthy optimism about the project. When faced against the notoriously brand-conscious Walt Disney Company, he held no reservations regarding whether or not something would be approved for inclusion. No matter how bold an idea, if he wanted to include it, he would pitch it with the mindset that, quote, there was nothing that couldn't be persuaded. After all, the project itself seemed impossible even in the most abstract sense. They were already beyond the pale, so why not push further? Of course, certain ideas would have to be reeled back a bit, but even with these concessions, Nomura would still end up coming away from the negotiating table with a victory, if even a small one, every time. There was still the matter of the title, however. Initially, Nomura wanted to evoke the idea of Disney. Offhand, he recalled the then most recent addition to the Walt Disney World Resort, Animal Kingdom, and decided on Kingdom as the title. Unfortunately, the name was unavailable to use, but Nomura was undeterred. He looked toward the game itself and what was at the center of its orbit, the hearts of people and worlds, and combined the two to get the final title, Kingdom Hearts. With its story, characters, core conceit, and now title pinned down, Kingdom Hearts was finally taking shape as more staff were onboarded to the project going into the year 2000. And both Square and Disney were confident enough in the project to formally announce their collaboration early that year. Unfortunately, their confidence wouldn't be quite so readily reciprocated. On Friday, February success of the Final Fantasy series and Tetsuya Nomura's artistry. Nomura himself would state that the game was an action RPG set in the Disney universe, featuring his own original Disney character at the center of it. The game itself, however, wasn't shown in any capacity. Rather, members of the press were treated to a tech demo of a 3D animated Goofy moving around and tossing a ball, which Colin Williamson, reporting for IGN, referred to as underwhelming. The general response was mixed between dismissal and genuine intrigue. On the one hand, why would Square, who were so lauded for their ability to tell mature, complex stories while pushing technical boundaries, partner up with Disney, who were infamous for their child-friendly, squeaky clean image? But on the other hand, both companies had stables of strong creative talents, so perhaps this project could prove to be something worthwhile. But for over a year afterward, both companies would remain tight-lipped about the project, not giving away even a single modicum of information about the game's title or status. On Square's end, development was moving along at a fair pace, with composer Yoko Shimomura, who was already well known for her work at Capcom, joining the project in the midst of a pregnancy. She was so engaged with working on the game's score that she would often neglect to rest until mere hours before the birth of her daughter, after which she would rest for just 2 months before continuing her work. Kazushige Nojima, who had directed Bahamut Lagoon and written Final Fantasy VII, VIII, and X, would also eventually be brought in to write the final act of the story. But unbeknownst to Nomura and his team, the approvals process at the Walt Disney Company was not as cut and dry as it had appeared. Despite the countless meetings and negotiations held with Disney Interactive Japan and the extensive development that had been done, Kingdom Hearts had never been granted formal approval by Disney. Nobody at DIJ had the authority to give the green light to a project that seemed to fly in the face of so many of the corporation's guidelines regarding creating new characters and settings, to say nothing of there being no precedence for bringing so many disparate franchises together into a single work, nor an official style guide for rendering their characters into the game. All of this would be found out by Disney Interactive's new Vice President and Managing Director for Asia Pacific, Shuji Usumi, upon joining the company in October 2000. He was astonished when he was told that, despite this lack of approval, the game was deep in development, and was advised by longtime staff at the company to cancel the project entirely, as getting formal approval for it would have been impossible. But rather than kowtow to their dismissal, even if it was born of institutional wisdom, Utsumi instead sought to at least try to gain approval for the game, and early in his time with the company, the perfect opportunity would present itself. As Michael Eisner, the chairman and CEO of the entire Walt Disney Company, the executive often credited with revitalizing Disney as a brand and market force during his tenure, would soon be visiting Japan. Accompanied by then-President and Chief Operating Officer Bob Iger, Eisner sat before over 100 managers from the US and Japan, cultivating an atmosphere that was surprisingly more akin to a Japanese business meeting than an American one. Everyone's focus was centered squarely on him. Every word, every motion, every twitch, taken in with quiet awe in an attempt to gauge his mood, leading Utsumi to likening Eisner's presence to that of an ancient Chinese emperor, with how he commanded attention with such little effort. Utsumi had been able to work Kingdom Hearts into his presentation for Eisner, and his division was thankfully in good standing thanks to recent successes in the territory. Ahead of this meeting, he had already met with several of his superiors, including the head of brand management, in order to ensure that this most important meeting would go smoothly. When presented with the project, Eisner didn't have much to say about it in terms of praise, but he said enough to clear the air on the matter. Keep at it, and do it right. With those simple words of encouragement, any anxieties that DIJ had about the project were immediately assuaged. The Emperor had spoken. This strange and unprecedented venture for Disney was now official, and soon enough, they and Square would be ready to properly unveil what exactly it was they had been collaborating on at E3 2001. appears in his hand to ward the darkness away and allow him to fight back against the shadowy monsters. He quickly finds Kairi as well, but she seemingly disappears when the mysterious door standing in the island's secluded cave violently opens. Sora's island is consumed by the darkness, but he finds himself safe and sound in the unfamiliar world of Traverse Town, where those lucky enough to escape their darkness-stricken worlds end up. There he meets a man named Leon, who explains that those dark creatures, the Heartless, are descending upon the disparate worlds in an effort to consume them and grow their legions. As the chosen wielder of the Keyblade, Sora must prevent this from happening by sealing the keyhole of each world, preventing the Heartless from consuming it. To accomplish this, he teams up with Donald Duck and Goofy, who were advised to find and stick with the wielder of the Keyblade by their missing king, who took off without warning to find a way to stop the Heartless. Sora is ready to walk the path laid out before him, but in addition to sealing the keyholes, finding the king, and defeating the Heartless, he's also searching for Riku and Kairi, whose fates after the loss of their world are unknown. So begins Kingdom Hearts. It's a simple story that's easy to follow the whole way through, as Sora, Donald, and Goofy traipse across various Disney worlds, meet new friends, stop the Heartless or corresponding Disney villain or both from finding the world's keyhole, and then sealing it. The structure may sound repetitive when described like that, but each world's individual plot ties back into the greater narrative in some way. The most apparent connections are most of the Disney villains who, aside from the King of Hearts in Wonderland and Clayton the Hunter in Deep Jungle, are all in league with Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, who's been orchestrating the Heartless plot. Defeating them thins out the ranks of this council of villains, bringing the trio closer to Maleficent herself and stopping her plans. And they're not completely ignorant of Sora or the Keyblade at any point in the story either. They're all fully aware that he, Donald, and Goofy are trying to foil their plot and regularly keep tabs on them. This is one of several elements which gives the story momentum, as letting the player know that their actions are affecting the villain's plans encourage them to keep going, even if Maleficent remains as confident as ever. She's slowly gathering the 7 princesses of hearts to open the door, and she and her allies even manage to pluck a couple of them out from under Sora's nose. It's remarkable how similar the general plot of the final game is to Tetsuya Nomura's original concept. The differences primarily lie in various minor details, such as the mysterious hooded figure that Sora briefly encounters in the secret place on his island, originally popping up a bit more often to share cryptic information. At one point, he was going to appear in Traverse Town in place of Leon to tell Sora, Donald, and Goofy about the Heartless and their connection to Sora's island being destroyed, as well as the king's disappearance. At another point, he was meant to be a resident of Destiny Islands. Like his inspiration, the rogue Sephiroth clone from Final Fantasy VII, his sparse presence adds an element of mystique to the story which likely warrants his presence in Nomura's original concept. Sora himself isn't a particularly difficult character to grasp. He's a 14-year-old kid who's lived on an island for his entire life with his best friend Riku, never even really considering the possibility of there being other worlds beyond the Destiny Islands until Kairi appeared on the night of a meteor shower when they were all kids. She knows she's not from here, but she has no recollection of her own world. This instilled a curiosity in the boys, Riku especially, which they wouldn't be able to pursue until now, and so curled the monkey's paw. Sora is kind, inquisitive, naive, and confident. He's quick to make friends with the people he meets in his travels, and is always sympathetic to whatever problems they may have. Despite Donald and Goofy telling him that they shouldn't get involved in the matters of other worlds, he is always prepared to insert himself into local affairs whenever there's trouble. He's a fairly uncomplicated hero, and adding to this simplicity is his status as the chosen wielder of the Keyblade. His role as the hero of the story, at least on the surface, is one that is chosen for him. The chosen one trope tends to be used as a crutch to shuffle a story along with as little friction as possible, and the results tend to be milquetoast and bland. Rather than someone going on a journey and becoming a hero as a result of them chasing their goals, they're preordained by some arbitrary force to accomplish some great task or stop a villainous plot. They aren't always bad, though. After all, tropes are tools before too.
but I was so young and handsome.
Gotta dash. No time to stop.
Whee! Hey, another 5 cents. They don't make goons like they used to.
Well, golly, them movie stars sure are short.
Hey, a nickel.
Ooh, that's interesting. Well, golly, them movie stars sure are short.
Jump!
Ooh, that's interesting.
Here, boy. Let me know when you're done playing around, okay? Here comes the B team. Hurry up and get in your bubble.
Well, golly, them movie stars sure are short.
Well, you showed him. This concludes your brush with greatness.
Ooh, that's interesting.
He's back, and this time it's personal. I'll be back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and 2 shows on Saturday.
Oh, for this I left Topeka.
Yes! Up, up, and away! Zoop! 5 cents. Woo-hoo. Here comes the B team. You want little old me to go? Whee! Every little bit helps. Whee! Boing! No!
I remember when this was a class joint. Now it's crawling with freaks.
Hey, Goofus! Made you look. Hey, you're not the only fully animated character around here, pal. Jump! Ah, Mudda Oit. And diggable, too. Start digging, big ears. Hey, another 5 cents. It's a bonanza! This looks like a good place to dig. Whee! Over to you, Dave. Quit hogging the glory, rabbit. Another one bites the dust.
Hey, what are you looking at?
Well, golly, them movie stars sure are short.
And here I thought you wanted to be an action star.
Oh! For this, I left Topeka. Ooh, that's interesting.
Hooray! Now we can afford a cab. Woohoo! Quasimodo and so on. Yep. Mortal peril, here we come. Joan of Arc! Jerry Lou... Mortal peril? As in risk to life and limb? With the emphasis on life? Yep, I'm out. But what about the world and all the monkeys? So what's the big deal? Everybody loves monkeys. And the giant, shiny, valuable diamond? What are we waiting for? We got a world to save! Move it! Move it! Parrots, Jeeves. Every little bit helps. But I was so young and handsome. I'm not switching now. Here comes the B team. Hurry up and get in your bubble. In your eye, Mark Spit. Oop. It's a veritable bonanza. Ah! Oop. What a haul!
It's them.
Hooray! I'm rich. Nickels. What's the deal with this rooster? I feel like I'm being stalked.
I said, go away, boy. You bother me.
I'm in the money. 5 cents. Woo-hoo.
Look, celebrities.
Well, look. Hold your horses, big shot. I'm coming. You know, there ain't no shame in acknowledging your limitations. Sure, I'll give it a go. Hey, another 5 cents. Look at you go, you long-eared dirt-moving machine. Whee!
Don't point.
You'll never do it dragging around all that wet fur. Boing! And I thought this only happened at the opera. Jump! Whee! Hey, a nickel! Every little bit helps. Hey, there's Foghorn. Boing! Hey, another 5 cents.